No, I think following on from David's view that it's a decision, as Frank Lowy used to say with the A-League owners, this is a decision of the heart, not the head. And rugby in Australia has resisted private investment for the period of our professional life, which is about 13 years. We see what's happened in the UK and France and the size of those economies and the subject I talked about before about the risk of player drain, and believe that it's the next stage of our evolution is to bring in managed private investment, private equity, but learning the lessons of how it's been done well and not so well around the world. In the States, with NFL and baseball and other professional sports, Canada, ice hockey, and of course, European sports, particularly football in the UK and France. We clearly aren't going to sell the farm. It'll be a regulated and nationally controlled introduction of private investment. It'll be people who have a great affinity and a great affection for the game, who want to have a bit of fun. It's a bit like owning a large yacht or a racehorses or artworks.
That bad?
That bad. Well, it's yeah. I mean, look, it's ownership in full or in part of sporting teams is a lot of fun, and you've got to look at it in that way. We've got 4 teams. We'd like to have more. We could not fund expansion out of our own resources. We don't have the benefit of licensed clubs. News Limited don't own any of our teams, in spite of what people might think. And it's the next stage of evolution, and we have the benefit of coming in late, which should avoid some of the mistakes that other sports have made.
Ben, John referred to his time at football and what Frank Lowy said to the owners. What has their experience been like? You've got good relationships with the owners, and can you explain to those of us who wouldn't necessarily understand how those clubs are owned? How privately owned are they, or how standalone are they?
Well, all of our clubs are privately owned. There's different models across the country. Some are owned 100% by some individuals. Some are multiple shareholders. So there's a different model for each, and there's no cookie cutter approach to the way we look at it. Without that private investment and without that private capital, the A-League would not be where it is today. And it's horses for courses for sports where they are in their evolutionary cycle. It's been an investment of somewhere around $40 to $50 million amongst all of those shareholders just to sustain the A-League to where it is today. Some are doing better than others. Some of them are certainly looking to us to try and improve the bottom line for them in providing more centralised funds, and hopefully we can do that over time. But most of the owners are passionate about their teams, don't look at it as something that's got a normal return on investment kind of model attached to it, that they're passionate about the game. They do have the wherewithal to invest it and sustain some losses, and that's probably the best combination for us at the moment.
Okay, I'm going to start talking about a few different things. I'm towards the end of our little show today, but as I go into the club and have a drink or swim downstairs, people tap me on the shoulder and say, mate, ask this question, ask that question. So there's a bit of a randomness to this remaining stuff. But gambling has affected some of your sports from time to time. You look at horse racing, the whole thing was set up with gambling in mind, and all the structures are built that way. You guys didn't develop your sports with those sorts of safeguards. I was going to start from right to left for no particular reason, although cricket has had some problems offshore. Can you go, like the stewards at Randwick can go and check out the betting sheets and make inquiries about betting fluctuations and make all that sort of analysis so they think something is up? Do you have the right or any access to betting fluctuations? Does somebody in your office keep an eye on that sort of stuff? Do you have any prudential approach to betting at all?
We've got arrangements with some of the betting organisations in this country to basically for them to share information with us. That's a starting point. But also for all international cricket, the ICC has anti-corruption officers that are set up in every country. Every match that's played is very closely monitored, and whether it's the type of people that are coming into town for those matches or it's the actual betting activity that's going on, all of those things are very, closely monitored, and the procedures are in place. They weren't in place 6 or 8 years ago, and some problems came out of that. Hopefully, and I think a recent case with a West Indian player in the last couple of weeks is evidence that that monitoring is in place, and drastic action is being taken against players where they cross the line.
John, I'm not aware of any rugby betting scandals, but do you have people whose job it is to keep an eye on those sorts of things and keep an eye on unusual patterns at Sports Tab, for example?
Well, it's not a major issue for rugby. Turnover on betting turnover on rugby games is not that large, and we have a relationship with Betfair and some prudential arrangements in place. The reality is sports betting is a growth industry. Generation Y, from some research that I've seen, indicates that generation finds it too hard to study the race form for thoroughbreds and dogs and trots, and it's just easier to say who's going to win between the Roosters and Souths, you know. So I think the important thing for sport is to make sure that it's our content that's being bet on, and to the extent that broadcasters pay us for our content, betting agencies need to pay us for the use of our content as well.
Are you in a position to get that money from them?
Well, we've got to improve the turnover first. I think the turnover ratings, as I understand it, is the NRL's 1, followed by the English Premier League, and I think that tells you a bit about. But look, Australia's a nation of punters, and the more simplistic the punt, the better. And I just think I think that's why Generation Y is finding sports betting pretty attractive.
There's a lot of things I'm not saying right now. David, there was a report written up in the Herald, I think it's about a year ago, give or take, of a well-known player had a relationship with a bloke who owned an adult entertainment facility, and there was funny decisions about him being injured or not injured and that sort of stuff. Has that story, we don't need to go to the details because I couldn't afford the defamation action, but has that changed the way that you guys monitor the sort of variables I'm talking about, unusual betting patterns or strange things happening?
Similar position to James. We've got some formal relationships now with agencies where we have access to information. We also get a return, which we've worked on collectively as sports to get legislation introduced to give us a return. The fact is sports betting's not going away. It gives fans skin in the game, if you like, when they turn the telly on or turn up, and it creates great interest. So to that extent, we have no difficulty with it. We believe that the sports should get a return from it, and the quid pro quo, if you like, is that we get access to the information. So we're in a similar position.
Gil, I'm presuming that your situation or the rugby league situation is quite similar. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, David's position pretty much mirrors ours. 35 to 40% growth in sports betting means that it's not going away. The way the current regulatory environment has been, and it's been proposed to be changed in Victoria, is that people can bet on our games and we haven't had any influence. So the introduction of Betfair really provides some leverage to actually have formalised relationships with betting providers. It means we actually earning money off that, but the real thing is it actually increases the integrity of our sport because we actually get the fluctuations, we get the betting sheets, and we're able to actually go and have a look what's going on. So, there's a couple of wins there, and it's something that we are increasingly becoming involved with, I guess.
Ben, what's the profile of the effect of gambling on your sport, and do you have resources allocated to watching out for strange activity?
Well, I think all of us have sort of similar mechanisms in place. We just like to find a way to get access to some of the English Premier League betting that goes on in this country as a first start. But look, it is an important issue for us all to address properly, and the fact that we now can actually have direct relationships with some of those organisations does give us access to the information required to look at any anomalies in betting patterns that we can monitor.